Once you have taken care of the contextual factors piece, you will want to turn your attention to the learning goals. The contextual factors part of the teacher work sample is intended to get you thinking about and predicting as much as possible the pitfalls and understanding the implications that all of the things, including the people actually around you, may have on students' instruction, learning, assessment, and all of that. The learning goals is the next step where you start looking at your curriculum. Learning goals in the teacher work sample documents, it says that the standard says the teacher sets significant, challenging, varied, and appropriate learning goals. Now, here are some things to think about. In the overall process, you will have 5 lessons in the teacher work sample that you will teach. Prior to teaching those lessons, you will be doing some pre-testing, and after those lessons, you will be doing post-testing. And during those lessons, you will have formative assessment. So you will see that assessment is throughout all of this process. The questions, though, when we start thinking about the curriculum, the questions really begin to arise when we talk about the words that you see on the top of the screen there. Significant, challenging, varied, and appropriate. Significant. Are you going beyond the standard that is expected? You may remember when we talk about state standards for curriculum and instruction, those are not intended by the state or by the framers of those standards to be the absolute top of what a child can be expected to achieve. Rather, a standard is a minimal competency, an expected minimum competency. So when we look at the standards on the state website, for instance, and we see that those standards look like they may be challenging, that's a call that you're going to have to make. If the standards themselves are challenging, then you may have met the requirement that they are challenging. If they are significant, are they moving the students forward in the content? Are they varied? And there are lots of ways to look at varied, and we'll talk about those as we go on, especially when we get into the section about the development of the instructional plans. And the other question is, are they appropriate? And when we talk about appropriate, really we're talking about developmental appropriateness. In order to figure that out, we have to understand what it is that is developmentally appropriate, which means we need to know where our students are developmentally so that we know what level to approach them from. As you're putting together learning goals, the learning goals are statements of, they are just that. They are goals, they are not behavioral objectives. So they are broad statements about what we want students to know or be able to do when they're finished with the instruction. Probably you will have between 3 and 5 learning goals, and those goals will be driving 5 lessons that you'll teach. The lessons do need to be consecutive. So when you're choosing the curriculum that you want to teach for this, bear in mind that these should be things that, for instance, could be done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in that order. So you would not want to choose content that is not proximal to each other. And then within each of the lessons, you will have the behavioral objective, the procedures, and the assessment. Your instructor will let you know about the formatting of the lessons. There are templates for lesson planning in live text that are used at Coastal Carolina University. And if you want to use a different kind of a format, you should probably clear that with your instructor first, because there are some reasons for the templates that we use. Learning goals. Here's what you're supposed to do. Again, task is the general statement about what this is supposed to accomplish. The idea here is that you will provide and justify the content that you're going to cover for your unit. And we're using the term unit in a very loose, broad kind of a way. This unit is 5 lessons. Then the prompt says, okay, in order to do that, here are the things you'll do. First, you'll list your learning goals, which are not activities. A learning goal is not the students will play a game. It is what the students are going to learn by doing that. What is the critical learning? That's what we're trying to get at with these statements of learning goal. These goals are supposed to define what you expect the students to know and be able to do at the end of the unit. And again, they should be, you see the words again, significant, challenging, varied, and appropriate. We'll talk about how to arrange those in just a minute. There is an expectation that the learning goals are aligned with local, state, or national standards. And you will be asked to identify specifically what those standards are. Then, the third yellow point down there, describe the types and levels of your learning goals. Type refers to cognitive, affective, or psychomotor. That is, what is the type of content being addressed. And level refers to Bloom's taxonomy, which will be, you'll see more about that in just a minute. And then finally, discuss why your learning goals are appropriate in terms of development, including things like prerequisite knowledge, their skills, and some of the other student needs that you have identified when you did your contextual factors. This means you're going to want to get out and dust off, to some degree, your educational psychology content, because you will need to know where your students are on a variety of different factors in order to answer this appropriately. As promised, here are the things we're talking about. This is Bloom's new taxonomy, the newer. I'll be quite honest with you, I favor the old one over this one, but this is what everybody seems to have gone to, so in an effort to get along, here we go. Levels of Bloom's taxonomy for the learning goals. Again, beginning at the bottom, the lowest level, knowledge. Essentially, factual information. Comprehension is where we combine facts and understand how they relate to each other. Application is when we take these concepts that we have understood through the comprehension process, and we can use them, we can apply them to other situations, and analysis, synthesis, and evaluation continue from there. Again, if you want a review of Bloom, I recommend, well, you can Google that and come up with some pretty good information. The types at the bottom refers to the ways in which content exists in our curricula. Cognitive, is it something that kids are memorizing or that they're trying to build schema for? Affective has to do with how they feel about it. So that would be more attitudinal. And then psychomotor is more of a skill. Are we trying to teach them how to adjust a microscope? That's a skill. Are we trying to teach them how to shoot a foul shot? That's a skill. Are we trying to get them to understand the concept of democracy? Well, that would be cognitive. And are we trying to get them to give us an opinion about how they feel about the difference between a democratic society and a dictatorship? Well, once they've developed those conceptual understandings, if we're asking them for an opinion, and if we're asking them to tell us how they feel, that would be affective.